Corey, we're back again with another Call of Duty, and this time we had a chance to get our hands on the Call of Duty Black Ops 6 open beta, closed beta, not exactly sure. We got in early access, to say the least, but this is a game by Infinity Ward and Treyarch, and that matters to a lot of people because this is a Black Ops, hopefully, return to form. But we have our own issues on that, our own thoughts on it. But to kick this one off, what was your first impression getting in?
Well, I mean, I'm a perennial Call of Duty player. I play a ton of Call of Duty in my spare time when we're not reviewing games. So when I have some free time, I'm usually whipping in a couple rounds of ranked on Modern Warfare 3 or dropping into Warzone for a little bit. So, I mean, generally, I was excited for Black Ops 6. We're getting a lot of new features, obviously the biggest one being the new Omni Movement mechanic, which we're starting to see that, you know, it is a different feel of a Call of Duty game compared to what we've, been used to in the past. And I kind of mentioned to you off screen that this seems like one of the biggest movement changes since we saw the introduction to the exosuits in Advanced Warfare and Infinite Warfare, where we really switched up how movement worked in Call of Duty. Now we're kind of, obviously, we reeled it back for a few years. Now they're trying something new. And honestly, Scott, I'm having a good time. I think the Omni Movement is a cool feature. It's a mechanic that you can kind of adopt to your pleasure. It's not something you necessarily have to do full on like everybody is going to do, but you can kind of gradually get into it. It's not something that's going to completely ruin the experience for you right away. And honestly, for me, I think that's, especially this early beta, it's nice to see it implemented so well.
Oh, absolutely. I think this is a tweak of the kind of movement mechanics that we've seen before, but happy to report it's not wall running, and there's no jetpack jumping or anything silly like that. We are rolled back a little bit into the past, that is. I believe it's supposed to be 1991.
Mm-hmm.
My first impression was that's a little strange to be seeing an unmanned aerial vehicle flying around, or a remote control explosive device. Regardless, that's just Call of Duty shenanigans. In this case, the movement is not quite shenanigans. I like what you said. It is quite adaptable because you're going to see a lot of people doing this dive side to side, coming out of each corner of the map, kind of already shooting and flying through the air. And that at first was a little daunting for me because I'm nervous about jumping back into the pool with people that are just so quick with the mechanics. And
yeah.
I find that this, although it does kind of increase the options of what you can do, I think there's also a defensive edge to that as well. I had mentioned to you that when people start flying out of corners and stuff, I do that dive backwards, where now I'm laying prone with my gun forward and a lot harder to hit that way. So you don't have to be lightning quick to still enjoy it, and that was kind of the biggest standout for me. But they also added another mechanic that is absolutely going to be abused. This is the idea that you can take a meat shield, something we haven't seen since Gears of War, I believe. And while you've got them kind of in that situation, you can whisper in their ear, and it connects the actual voice chat of these two players, which is bananas. There's an incredible potential here to do awful things or say awful things to these people, and I hope it's not taken to that effect. But at the same time, this beta's been out for a few days at this point. I've already seen some really, really funny scenarios.
Got another big feature that they've been, kind of hanging over our heads here is the fact that we're going to be seeing 16 brand new maps upon launch. And we're obviously going to see some of those classic COD maps creep in like they always do. But the big thing here is we're going to be seeing a lot of new territory, a lot of new terrain that we haven't seen before. And this beta is showing off some of the newer maps. We've actually gotten 4 released right now for the first weekend. And I believe we're going to see another 4 starting on September 4th to September 9th for weekend 2 of the open beta. And honestly, Scott, the maps we have said are a little bit small, but it kind of lends to the game modes we're playing. We're getting a limited look at what we can play in multiplayer. So they just want to tease us a little bit here, but honestly the maps are done pretty well. I'm finding that it's the coloring, the lighting of the maps are pretty good. I'm not finding too many dark spots, so it's nice because with some of these games you never quite know what the corners of rooms are going to be like, because some of these skins that we're even getting to start off with are a little bit darker at first. So if you're in a corner of a room, you can actually still pick people out, which I can appreciate. That's one of those things where I've just noticed that the maps they have laid out for us have been pretty good. No real complaints. A couple of them get frustrating at times, but that's probably more a me problem than anything else.
Yeah, I find the frustrating parts is kind of where these new maps echo back to older maps. There's Drive-In from Cold War, perhaps, is very close to the one that's in the beta here, but I have a feeling we're kind of being put through some of the smaller maps at the beginning of these betas to kind of show off that diving around corners mechanics, and I think that makes a lot of sense. But there is something interesting that I saw in at least one of the maps, is that you can kind of open and close some of the doors. There's the security switches hidden down in the vents, and I thought that's interesting because there's going to be that opportunity to kind of change the stalemate that might be happening in the game. And I think that's really fun. I like that. But we're also going to see some of these older maps return, I'm told, and that has me wondering, well, what kind of new tricks, what kind of new strategies are people going to come up with, considering that I can dive out of any door?
Yeah.